Hi, my name is Sydney and my channel goes by Sydney and Her Books, and this August 14th through 17th I attended Once Upon a Con, which is my first bookish convention. I started going to book events this year and this one was an absolute roller coaster of an event. I was lucky enough to attend with my cousin, and overall I will say that I had a really wonderful time, but that is in spite of everything else that happened. And so this video was supposed to be a vlog of me attending my first bookish convention. I was very excited. I brought my GoPro. I took a ton of videos throughout the weekend, and I went into the event really excited to go to my first convention. But within the first 24 hours of the convention, I very quickly realized that this was not going to be a vlog in the way that I intended it to be, and that I knew I was going to have to sit down after the event and talk through what happened, because there were just so many things that went very right and most things that went very wrong. Now I will say that I am very lucky that the things that I kind of got screwed over on are very small in comparison to a lot of other things that happened to other creators. It is now Tuesday, so it is 2 days after the event has ended, and I've spent the last 2 days kind of collecting my thoughts, reminiscing on the weekend, and listening to other people's stories and kind of just collecting all of the evidence, or tea as you will say. But I knew I wanted to make this video not only to share the experience and the information from somebody who attended this convention, but also to share, you know, the good things that happened and shout out all the authors and the people that I met along the way for this convention. I'm going to be as concise and to the point as I possibly can, but I will walk you through chronologically everything that happened starting 1.5 years ago when I got the tickets all the way up until today. About 2 years ago, I saw Once Upon a Con's first couple TikToks. I immediately followed them, they followed me back, and I was getting very excited for this event to the point where I even joined, I don't join lives literally ever, but I joined on their live in which they released the tickets. And so the very night they released their first batch of tickets, I bought myself a VIP ticket immediately after their live, and I spent $200 on this ticket 1.5 years in advance. This was in January of 2024, and later on in 2024, about a year ago, so October through December era, is when the big drama between Once Upon a Con and Second Star events happened, and there was a lot of he said, she said. We really didn't know what was happening. I won't go into the details because that stuff has been online for about a year now. But throughout this drama, my cousin had decided to join me a few months before, and ultimately we decided to go through with the event. She was extremely excited for the masquerade and for this few other events, and I was really excited because this was marketed in the beginning as a bookish convention. So I was going to meet a ton of indie authors and to go to a bunch of writing and bookish panels. I am a romantasy reader and writer, and so I was really looking forward to this kind of side of the convention. Over the last 1.5 years, they've obviously been posting a ton about the events of the convention. This is my very first convention ever, so I've never been to a Comic-Con or anything like that, and so the Maid Cafe, the burlesque shows, the War Room, all of these things were also happening, but I did not want to take part in them. It's just not what I went to the convention for. I was part of the Discord as soon as I got my tickets, so I have been in that group chat for the past 1.5 years. I was very excited for the first like 3 days, but it quickly became apparent that people talk way too much in that group chat, and so I barely looked at it for the past 1.5 years, except for when the drama was coming out with Second Star events, and then I started getting back into the Discord about a week before the convention. Now also in this 1.5 years, there were a lot of other problems. This convention was initially supposed to be in Pennsylvania. I was very excited to explore Lancaster in a very beautiful venue, but the news kind of dropped that the venue had completely changed after several months of me already owning the ticket, to the Gaylord in the National Harbor in Maryland. Now that is a much closer drive for me, but I see the Gaylord literally all the time. Although I've never been inside of it, I had no desire to go there. I wanted to explore a new place. So I was initially very upset about this new venue change. But with the bigger venue, they were going to allow more guests, which I was also not excited about, but that also meant they were inviting like 3 times the amount of authors and therefore more panelists and more things to do. So eventually I became okay with the change. I was, however, very upset that the price of the hotel room had definitely increased because the Gaylord is a much more expensive venue, and we wanted to stay on site. And now at this point I'm only a 10-15 minute drive away from my mom's apartment, but we still wanted to stay on site, and with traffic it usually came out to be an hour. So I was honestly upset that I would have to stay in a hotel so close to somewhere I could stay for free. But still, through all of these change of plans, people dropping out, all the drama, we still decided to stay with our tickets, because also at that point there were a lot of people that tried to get refunds and they never got them. So we were like, you know what, we're going to see this through. My cousin came into town a few days before the convention, and we stayed with my mom across across the river just for a few days to visit. And we decided we were going to drive to the convention Thursday and drive back Thursday night, and then drive back Friday morning and stay there the rest of the weekend. I am a really big planner and a really big spreadsheet girly, so if you've seen any of my spreadsheet videos, you know that I of course made an entire spreadsheet full of all of the Once Upon a Con authors that were attending. I put a lot of time and effort into this spreadsheet. I went through and I color coordinated based on genre. I included links to their Goodreads, and so you know that I was here for the authors. I went through and I read a ton of authors of ones that I wanted to go visit, so I was very much there for the authors, and I was extremely prepared. When they finally started rolling out the map, I was going through and I was finding authors. Like, I was planning hardcore for this. They started dropping the panels and event activities lists about a year in advance, but there were no descriptions of what these panels were. We were just given the names, we were given no times or locations or anything like that, which is probably totally normal for something that far in advance, but about like 8 months in advance, something way too far in advance, you had to sign up for a lot of the you had to sign up for a lot of the panels, because a lot of them either had materials that they needed to account for, or they were supposed to be in specific rooms. And so by the time I even got back into the Discord and realized that was even happening, all of them had completely sold out. So I was a little upset by that, and my cousin definitely was, because she was not in the loop with the Discord. But regardless, in the weeks leading up to Once Upon a Con, we spent a lot of time, and by we, I mean me. I spent hours upon hours looking through all of the activities, all of the panels, and planning out what I could potentially go to. So even before the event, I had put in several hours of planning, trying to make the most out of my weekend, and when the schedule finally dropped, to say I was frustrated is an understatement. Like I said, I was there for the authors and for the writing panels, specifically all of the romantasy panels. And when the schedule dropped, I realized that the 4 panels I most wanted to go to were all happening at the same time. So I don't know who made the schedule, but the 4 panels all about romantasy writing, cozy fantasy writing, romance and world building all in a fantasy setting. Tell me why all of these things that are all very much of one interest were all happening at the exact same time. And that happened with a few other things as well. There were multiple cosplay panels happening at the same time. There were also events that were happening during the masquerades. There were masquerades both Friday night and Saturday night, and there were events happening during these panels. There were panels happening starting at 8 o'clock going until 9 o'clock when the masquerade started at 9. And so as my cousin and I were planning out our days, we were getting very, very frustrated that things were overlapping. There was also at the time a VIP dinner that I was supposed to attend that was also happening at the exact same time as those 4 romantasy writing panels that I was going to. So I was getting extremely frustrated that things I wanted to do were all overlapping with each other, and I could only pick 1 or 2 things to do at the most. There was also absolutely no buffer time in between any of the panels. They were back to back to back and overlapped quite a lot. Things would be happening from 9 to 10, 10 to 11, 11 to 12, with absolutely no room to maneuver in between. There were also things at the same time that were starting at 4:30 and 5:30 and 2:30, so like things were overlapping constantly, and I'm sure that might be normal for panels, but it's very, very difficult when you want to go to multiples in the same day. So we were getting frustrated with the schedule before we even got to the event. Now I'm going to continue the rest of my storytelling at the actual event. I'm going to tell you exactly what our experiences were as we were going through, as well as what we were told throughout the weekend as we were learning it. So Thursday rolls around. My Friday schedule is jam-packed because there's a lot of events I wanted to go to, and so we are going to spend Thursday checking in, getting registration, getting my VIP swag bag. My cousin was general admission, getting our VIP swag bag, learning the ropes of the orientation of this convention center, because it is absolutely massive. We wanted to figure out where everything was. We had 1 panel we wanted to go to because there were 4 panels all happening at the same time, so you could only pick one anyway. So we had 1 panel we wanted to go to, and then we wanted to follow it up with the happy hour they were hosting so we can mingle and make some friends. We try to get there at 6 o'clock when registration opens, but because of rush hour traffic, we end up getting there around 6:30, which is totally fine because our panel doesn't start until 7:30. So we get in, we figure out parking, we walk into the convention center, and we realize this place is absolutely massive. We also realize that there are absolutely no signs for anything anywhere. And so we're just walking around aimlessly, and we run into a ton of other people that are also walking around aimlessly, and we're all asking, hey, do you know where registration is? Do you know where registration is? So now we're all walking around together trying to find registration, until we eventually run into a volunteer, and she says, hey, don't even bother with registration. The badges have not come in yet, so go find something else to do in the meanwhile. And we're like, okay, interesting, but sure. So we're like, all right, let's go and walk around and try to figure out where all the events are, where all the panels are, where all the rooms are. And because this place is absolutely massive, and so we're walking around, and we very quickly realized that the screenshots that I had taken from months ago of where things were happening were very, very different than what the guidebook app was telling us. And the guidebook app is where we are finding all of the schedule and all of the events. And so at some point along the way, we were supposed to be on this side of the convention center, and we ended up being moved to this side of the convention center. So there were people throughout the weekend that were going to the initial locations when they should have been going to the new locations. And so this is us figuring out the original locations, walking around finding those just in case, and then walking around finding the new locations and just kind of exploring. And then we went into the atrium. It was really incredibly beautiful. This venue is absolutely stunning, and we were getting really excited. And it just so happened we walked outside and we went in a new way. We went in through a new door just to see if we could get in that way. And that's when we stumbled upon the registration line. It was in the bottom floor, so there were no signs. I don't know how anybody found it. So we ended up coming back inside around 7:15, and at that point there were hundreds of people inside this line for registration. And we were like, our panel starts in 15 minutes. There's no way that's happening. And so we find a staff member and we're like, hey, we were told an hour ago that we should not even try to find registration. Can we just go to our first panel and come back to this afterwards? And she goes, yeah, go do that. Like, show that your panelists your confirmation email. You should be okay. And we're like, okay, cool. Hopefully by then, like, this line will die down. And so at 7:30, our panel starts, and it is just my cousin and I in there, and come rushing in as our wonderful, wonderful two panelists. One of them is Sayakat cosplay, and they were just spectacular. And then about a few minutes late, I think, Mindfall Media comes in because he had gone to the original locations. And so he's trying to set up his computer to get onto the projection screen. So it's literally just my cousin and I, Sayakat, Mindfall Media, and one other lady who's there. And we're like, okay, a good start to the weekend, good start to the weekend. We ended up starting a little bit late, and let me tell you, this panel was really fantastic. Both those creators really knew what they were talking about, and we had a really wonderful time learning from them, seeing their photos, seeing how Sayakat posed in person, and it was a really beneficial experience. I'm a wedding and portrait photographer, so the posing and camera settings, all of this is something that's very normal to me, but I wanted to learn more about the cosplay photography and the fantasy photography side of things, that it was very beneficial for me. And so throughout this 1 hour panel, we had maybe 5-6 other people trickle in throughout, because they finally made it through the registration line and made it to the panel. So I'm sure there were initially going to be way more people in this panel, but they were definitely all just stuck in that registration line. The panel ended at 8:30, 8:40. But my cousin and I ended up talking to the two panelists for a very long time. They were so lovely. I absolutely loved meeting both of them. And so we didn't end up leaving the room until about 9:15. We were in there. We yapped for a long time. But so about 9:15, we were like, hey, we all need to go get our badges, because they didn't even get their like panelist badges. And so we all go down to registration together. Now, as a VIP, I was told that VIP registration line would be a quick, fast, easy, like a shorter line for VIPs, and general admission would have their own thing. So I come downstairs and I see like a fold out table with like 3 people in front of it, and there's a longer line right in front of it. So I'm like, all right, cousin Rachel, your general admission line is obviously right here. I'm gonna go check out this little table, because that's gotta be the VIP, right? So I walk up and no, that's actually for staff. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm confused. Where does VIP go? And the person I asked had absolutely no idea. And I was like, oh, okay. So then I go find somebody else, and she's like, I don't know either. Let's go find out together. And I'm like, okay. And so I'm following this leader around, and every like 5 people, she's like, hey, are you general or VIP? Hey, are you general or VIP? And we're like, okay, everyone was general, until finally we get just to the other side of where the VIP was, the general was lining up. She's like, oh, we found VIP. VIP line was at least 4 times longer than the general admission line. It was, and the same like concession stand opening thing where the staff were checking people in. General was over here and was about this long. VIP was down here, and it was zigzagging around this like empty space. And I was like, oh no, oh no, oh no. And so I'm standing there, and everyone in the VIP line towards the front look angry. They do not look like they're having a good time. They look very upset. And everyone in the back is like, what is happening here? What is going on? Because we are also not moving. Like, we are moving so incredibly slowly, it feels like we're not even at all. My cousin, 12 minutes later, comes and finds me in line with her general admission badge. So she takes 12 minutes. Another 10 minutes goes by. So I've been in this line for over 20 minutes now, and like, general admission is gone. General admission has just completely gone all the way through, and this guy who must be on staff comes over to our side and he goes, VIP, and we're all like, yeah. He goes, all right, we're going to move half of you over to this side because general admission is done. And like 10 people go, no. And he goes, that's not what I meant. I meant that we would now be using all of like all of the general admission stations as VIP, so you should be going twice as fast now. And we were like, yeah, that's what we thought. So I think this guy got bullied into changing his plans, because that's definitely not what he said the first time. And so as he's standing there, somebody towards the front of the line said, I've been waiting here for 2 hours. This is not a VIP experience. And I'm like, oh my God, you've got to be joking. 2 hours for our short and quick VIP line. Bad. So that means she completely missed the panel. She's been standing there for so long. At that point, it was like 9:30, 9:40 in the evening. We were getting tired. The cocktail hour started at 7 at the same time as the panels. And so at this point, nobody's having it. Nobody's having anything. And so finally our line starts moving kind of fast for like 5 minutes. And then So general admission, more people have been arriving, and they've been going to the back of our VIP line. Maybe another 5 minutes goes by, and the same guy comes back, and he goes, are there any general admission people on this line? And everyone in the back is like, yeah. And he goes, all right, your line is over here. And we were like, the VIPs were like, wait a minute, I thought we were combining now. So now all the general admission people go over on this side, and they start going through, and their line is going so fast. And we're like, what is going on? So now we're going double slow. And by the time I finally get up after 45 minutes of standing in line, general admission has already gone through all the way, like they're done again. And so I get up to the front, and the person in front of me is very upset, because I've been watching and nobody's walking away with these VIP tote bags that we were told we were going to get. And so the person in front of me is very angrily exchanging with the staff member there. I don't know if they were staff or volunteer, I don't know. But they were like, we waited in this line for so long. Where is the VIP tote bag? Like, what is going on? And the person in front is like, I'm sorry, you're going to have to come back tomorrow for the VIP tote bag. Like, you're going to have to come back and wait in another line. And all of us are like, are you joking? So I get up to the front, and I'm realizing why it's taking so long. I didn't have to show my ID at all. My cousin Rachel did, but I didn't at all. He just asked for my name so that he could write my name down on a piece of paper. And I'm like, what are you doing that for? Like, what are you doing? Like, what? What? Why are you writing down? Don't you like have a list of all of our names already? Like, why are you writing them down instead of checking them off? Like, what's going on? And so I tried to kindly ask. I was like, why are you writing my name on a piece of paper? And he goes, oh, so that when we give out the VIP tote bags tomorrow, we can check you off. And I'm like, okay, this is interesting. And so he hands me my badge, and my badge is a flimsy piece of paper. And he says, all right, write your name with Sharpie into the name card. I'm like, okay, this does not feel very VIP of me, but okay. And it says general admission, and I go, so I'm a VIP, what gives? And he goes, oh yeah, this dragon sticker means that you're VIP. And I'm like, fascinating. And then he adds these 3 little colored stickers up there, and I'm like, what are these? And he goes, oh yeah, one of these is admission into the Saturday Night Ball, one of these is the Joel Sunny concert, and one of these is the fashion show concert. And I was like, okay, interesting. He's like, yep, see you tomorrow for, to come back and get your tote bag. I'm like, okay. And so at this point, it is 10 o'clock at night, probably past, and my cousin and I look at each other and we're like, we are not going to this cocktail hour. Like, it's not happening. Like, we are exhausted and we're pretty irritated at this point. Let's go home. And so we end up driving home that day, and my poor mom was subjected to a rant that unfortunately was only the beginning. I'm going to be using my phone for timestamp purposes for the rest of this video, because timing is important. So we wake up at the crack of dawn on Friday because now I have to go and wait in line on a registration line that opens at 8 before the opening ceremony starts at 9, because after that I have a jam-packed schedule and there is no other way I was going to get my VIP tote bag. And inside this tote bag is a doubloon that I am hoping to get. Oh my goodness, I realized I already skipped something. Anyway, inside is is 2 doubloons now that I was told I can trade for books. And because VIP has an hour of early entry into the marketplace, I wanted to use them on the first day so that I could get the books that I really wanted. What I forgot to mention was that about a week before the convention, I got an email from the con chair saying, hey, here are the VIP perks that you were promised. A super fast access line at registration to get in, get your badge, and get on with your con. Didn't happen. Early admittance into the author alley and marketplace, VIP priority seating right up by the runway for the fantasy fashion show, right behind the multiple magazines and photographers, Saturday masquerade entrance, and we were supposed to have that Saturday VIP dinner that was conflicting with my schedule. But in this email, they say, after working and planning for this dinner for quite a while, the Gaylord informed us they would not be able to host the dinner after all. With other events happening in the Gaylord this weekend alongside us, and only so many Gaylord staff to go around, we are offering 3 additional things exclusive for our VIPs. Complimentary Joel Sunny tickets. I had already bought my tickets, and so they said in the email, respond back and you'll get a refund. I did respond immediately, and they said they gave us a refund. I have not checked whether I actually got the money or not. A cocktail hour with the inner circle, and an extra doubloon in your VIP swag bag. We were also told there would be VIP fast pass lanes for all events, and a swag bag with special goodies you will get to pick up at registration, and a bag you can use to cart around some of your new trinkets and books at the con. So this VIP dinner that was supposed to be a very nice affair with people cosplaying as the inner circle were supposed to be there. I wasn't really sure if I wanted to go, but I wanted to get my money's worth out of the VIP ticket, so I was probably going to go. But I know from the Discord people were very upset that they now had to account for another meal they had to buy themselves when it should have been included. And you know, you can't exactly exchange a doubloon for a sandwich. So we get there bright and early, right at the beginning of registration at 8 a.m. and my cousin goes to the front desk to see if we can possibly get an early check-in, and I go towards registration to see if I can get my goodie bag. But even on my way to registration, I run into a volunteer and I say, hey, do they have the VIP swag bags? And she says, no, come back later. I'm like, okay, great. So happy we got here so early for nothing. But one of the only things that went really right at this convention is that we were allowed to check in at 8:15 in the morning, which is like maybe 8 hours before we were supposed to be able to. The check-in lady was so wonderful. They decorated their front desks with books. They definitely did that for us. It was such a heartwarming welcome from the Gaylord staff. That was wonderful. And so we were thankfully able to spend 8:15 to 9 o'clock checking into our room and unloading all of our stuff and unpacking a little bit. So it was good that we got there early, but now I was like, well, now I have to go back and wait in line again for this stupid VIP bag. All right, we're at Once Upon a Con. This is my cousin Rachel. She flew in from Colorado to join me at this convention. It's my very first convention. Rachel's been to multiple, but this is her first bookish convention. We were able to check into our hotel a little bit early, which is basically the only really good thing that's happened so far. Today is Friday. We actually started the convention yesterday on Thursday, and things didn't exactly go to plan. The badges weren't here yet, and we ended up going directly to our first panel where we learned about intro to cosplay photography, which was actually like a really, really good panel. We really enjoyed our time there, and we got to talk to the 2 panelists afterwards. So we had a good half of Thursday, but then we all waited in a very ridiculously long line to get my VIP pass. Rachel's general admission pass went by in like 12 minutes. It took me forever to get mine.
42 minutes.
Yeah. People were not happy. There was a lot of grumbling. So a lot of like first con kind of
technology issues, logistic problems.
Yeah, so it's gonna be okay though. We have a lot of faith that the rest of the convention is gonna go well. We got here super early for Friday. We didn't stay the night here last night, but we're gonna spend Friday night and Saturday night here. So we try to get here early so I can pick up my VIP swag bag, but it is still not ready. So we thought we would try checking in
like 6 hours early, and they let us into our room. So thankfully, something good happened to us today. We just kind of got settled in and Rachel filmed a little mini room tour because she didn't like the way I filmed mine. So I'll put that in here. But we just did a little bit of an unpacking, and now we're gonna go down to the opening ceremonies, and hopefully the rest of the day will be smooth sailing.
Let's go.
And so we go to opening ceremonies. We get there a few minutes early, and there's very few people there. Very few people. Maybe 100 or two. Like nothing more. Absolutely not more than 200 people were there. So opening ceremonies is supposed to go from 9 to 10 a.m. and at 9:08 they began. And unfortunately, this is going to be a recurring instance for the whole weekend. I'm gonna tell you right now, spoiler, not a single thing this whole weekend was on time. In this opening ceremony, it's very clear that they've never done anything like this. It was very low energy in the beginning, in which they are just kind of like trying to hype us up for the events that were gonna happen throughout the weekend. And they were talking about how this is the first convention to have a ticket holder from all 7 continents, including Antarctica. They were explaining that somebody from Australia went to their research center in Antarctica and bought their ticket there so that we could be the first at the Gaylord to have a ticket from all 7 continents. Apparently, there were 6,400 attendees across 24 countries. And we were like looking around at the maybe 200 people, and we were like, okay, interesting. I guess it's Friday at 9 a.m. Maybe everyone else is coming tonight or tomorrow. Sure. So it's a very lackluster event, if I do say so myself. And it was over. I was taking photos inside by 9:30. So a very, very quick and lackluster event. We're here! We got our rings. Wait, we had them already, but now we're all ready. Give us a little twirl. Perfect. So at this point, I open up the Discord, and we are sitting there in this grand ballroom, and I'm just reading the Discord, and people are updating constantly about how people have been asking for the VIP swag bags, being like, okay, when are we supposed to get them? What's supposed to be happening? The marketplace is supposed to open up at noon for VIP holders, and so at that point, it's 9:30, and there's nothing else happening until then. And so we're just chilling. We go back to the room, and we are just unpacking more, and I'm sitting there and I'm reading. And so I'm checking the Discord, you know, seeing what's up with these VIP swag bags, what's up with everything else. And in this Discord, people are constantly, like every 30 minutes, going up and asking a staff member the ETA. And so we are eventually told that the swag bags will be ready at noon, so that we should go and get them on our way pretty much into the marketplace. And we're like, interesting. But other people in the Discord are talking about how all of the authors and all of the marketplace vendors are still setting up because the previous convention, which was an AI law convention, they did not finish taking down everything, and so therefore they got into the marketplace late, and that apparently it was very, very chaotic. Now, I didn't talk to any vendors about their specific experiences, and I was not there for that, but through what people were relaying into the Discord, apparently it was incredibly chaotic. They did mention during this opening ceremonies that they didn't account for the like beams in the middle of the room, so everything would be shifted. Me, as somebody who went and like marked out where everyone was going to be, that was horribly frustrating for me because I had planned out, I had pretty much memorized where everyone was going to be, and nobody was exactly where the map said they would be. And so people were just in the room trying to figure out where to go, and they were all setting up pretty late. And so at this point we were like, oh no, oh no. I was told it was a very stressful experience for most but not all authors and vendors. And so finally around 11:45 I decided to go downstairs and wait in what is absolutely going to be a line, and I find this long line of entirely VIP holders waiting to get into the marketplace. And we were like, okay, if they were smart, they would hand us our swag bags as we get into the marketplace, because clearly everyone who's entering right now is a VIP and we all need our swag bags. So maybe it's going to take so long because they have to search through all those handwritten pages of all of our handwritten names. So we were all pretty skeptical at that point. And so, you know, as you're in line, my cousin was not with me because she's not VIP. as you're in line, you just start making friends. And so we were all talking about what was happening in the Discord. We were sharing what other people had heard. It was an experience for sure. So I was in line starting around 11:45, and I got into the doors at 12:18. And I know this because they handed us our swag bag right as we were going in. Didn't check our names or anything. They just made sure I had a little dragon sticker on my nameplate that we were going in. They handed us our tote bags, and they handed us our extra doubloon. I'm going to show you what our VIP swag bags look like. First of all, it's the crappiest canvas tote you've ever seen in your life. It's going to shred after one use. And they had tied in a black ribbon that is definitely from the dollar store. Now inside are VIP swag bags, coupons and advertisements for vendors, 2 loose leaf bags of tea that who knows how many people have touched. I will not be drinking those. 2 pieces of purple tissue paper, and the 2 doubloons. Now clearly this was an underwhelming experience for quite literally everyone involved. But you know what? Now we are into the author marketplace inside this gigantic room, absolutely massive room, and there are a ton of vendors and authors set up here. There are also a lot of empty tables. So as I was walking through, a lot of the tables were empty, that they were set up, they were empty. And so mentally I was like, okay, maybe they're just here for Saturday, Sunday, probably. And of course there are always going to be last minute dropouts for every event, but there were quite a few empty tables. I had already decided that during this 1 hour VIP time before my cousin can join me, I would be going through to my top 3 authors that I really wanted to see and buy their books from, to make sure that I got first pick of whatever special editions they had, and so I could use my doubloons and talk to them for a little while. And so I have my map with my pre-planned authors as I'm walking through, and let me tell you, this was not an experience for the week, because as you're going through, and so nobody else knows that I'm looking for specific people. So I'm looking through because I don't know what they look like. I'm just looking for their names. And so every time you pass by an author, they stand up and they get really excited because they want you to come and talk to them. And I feel so bad because during this VIP time, there were not a ton of people in there. And so I would be one of like 10 people in an entire row of like 30 authors. And so I'm walking through and I'm looking for specific people. And so somebody gets excited and I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, I'm not here for you right now. I'm going to come back, I promise. But like, it's a heartbreaking experience when you have to like look away, or they go, hey, what kind of books do you like? And it's like, sorry, not now. It's like, it's a heartbreaking experience because you want to go up and talk to them. But anyway, I'll get more into that. But anyway, so I end up going through and I find my authors and I am ready to use one of my doubloons. And the first author that I go up to has special editions and normal paperbacks. And so I go up to her and I go, hey, you know, I talk to her, I tell her I like her book, all this stuff. We have a really lovely conversation. And I go and I say, hey, what can I buy with this doubloon? Like, can I get special editions? Can I get paperbacks? Like, what can I get? We were not told anything. And this author goes, yeah, we weren't really told anything either. We weren't really told how this works, but I think somebody mentioned it's just for standard paperbacks. And I go, you know what? That makes a lot of sense. I will go ahead and I want to buy your special edition because I really want it. And so I was able to get her special edition. And then I move on to the next vendor and the next author I wanted. I again asked, I say, hey, can I buy one of your special editions with my doubloon? And she said, I have no idea what you're talking about. What doubloon? And so I'm like, oh no. And so I'm explaining how it's going. She goes, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And I feel kind of weird about it, so I think I buy her books. I think I wanted multiple books from her. And so I ended up buying her books just because, you know, she had a bundle of like, you know, get a percentage off when you get all of her books. So I'm pretty sure I did that. And so then I spent the rest of my hour going through. I did use both my doubloons in that hour for other authors that I was interested in, just because they were part of the VIP package and I was told that's how it's gonna work. And so they were gone within like 45 minutes. And then I spent the last 15 minutes of VIP time kind of standing off to the side and reevaluating what other authors I wanted to go to based off of who was there and who wasn't. And I had promised my cousin I would walk up and down the aisles with her when she got in with general admission. And so I ended up pulling off to the side and waiting for general admission to come through so we can walk up and down the aisles. So she's allowed inside at 1 o'clock. So we pull off to the side and we decide that, you know what, there's actually a few authors that I'm not really sure about yet. I want to read like their first chapters. And so we're like, all right, cool, let's pull off to the side, let's do some reading. She was listening to Akawar, so she had to get through that because she didn't want to see any spoilers, and I was going to read some books. And so we pull off to the side, and within 15 minutes we realize, oh my goodness, the fashion show starts in 15 minutes. And so we're like, oh no, we actually have to go. So we end up leaving to go to the fashion show, which is in the same big ballroom where all the major events are happening. And so as we are walking up, we see a gigantic line of people, and we're like, oh no. But per my VIP perks, I'm supposed to have a VIP only line. And so we walk up and there's this giant line. Rachel knows she's going in that line. And so I see a volunteer and I go, hi, where's the VIP line? And she goes, there is not a VIP line, you're in this line. And I go, that's not right. That's not right. I know that's not right. So I start walking around and looking for a smaller line. And eventually I do end up finding one because somebody's yelling, VIPs over here, VIPs over here. So that was on me for going and finding this line because I knew I was not supposed to be part of that line. But that attendee, I know she was overwhelmed with a lot of people, but we had a longer discussion than that, and it was not a good interaction. But anyway, so I'm waiting in line, and the fashion show is supposed to start at 1:30. Instead of what we thought would be like a sectioned off seating, eventually at like 1:40, they just let the VIP line into the ballroom first so we can get the seats that we wanted. So I ended up being able to save my cousin a seat right next to me. The MC comes on stage at 1:48, and I will say that he was an excellent MC. He did a really, really wonderful job hyping up the crowd and walking through, like talking through the whole fashion show. He did a really wonderful job. The fashion show itself was a really fun experience. We got to sit up pretty close. We could see all of the gowns really well. I think there were 4 different designers with a ton of people. It was very clear though that there are models that were not there though, because our MC would call a name and nobody would come up, and you'd be like, all right, and next. And that happened a couple of times. So there were definitely people that were missing. So that was a little awkward to watch. But what was even more awkward to watch was that 2 of the models are the 2 co-chairs of the event. And so everyone is like, what? What are you doing up there? Because at this point, people were talking nonstop in the Discord about all of these things that had been going wrong, and that nobody could get a hold of the co-chairs. And we were like, well, all right, this is our second sighting of them. They were at the opening ceremonies this morning at 9 a.m. and now at 2 o'clock, they are walking in a fantasy fashion show. Okay, interesting. Now, what we were told at this point by several different people, like in person and when people were putting into the Discord, is that there were a lot of people promised hotel rooms and they were not delivered. And so a lot of people showed up Thursday night or Friday night expecting to have their hotels paid for, and they showed up and the Gaylord was like, no, they're not paid for. You need to put down a card so that you can pay for your room and hopefully you can get reimbursed by the Once Upon a Con people. And for a lot of people, that was not a feasible option because the Gaylord is an extremely expensive hotel. It was like $500 a night for non-con rates, which is what they were given for last second. And so what we were told later on that day by a person was that a normal attendee, we ran into her later on, she was saying that she housed one of the higher ups in her room that night because she could not afford a room. And so she was just housing her. And what this higher up person told this attendee that she shared a room with, who then told us, was that they had to, like, the Once Upon a Con people put their card down for all of these rooms, and clearly for a multi-$1,000 charge, their card was not having it, and so the card got declined, and that is why none of the rooms were comped, but reimbursement would be on the way. And so I know from people that we interacted with, a lot of people ended up putting down cards for their rooms and inviting a ton of other people into their rooms. People were putting air mattresses inside of the rooms. People were double, tripling, quadrupling up on rooms. There were attendees that opened up their rooms to people that were invited in. There was a lot of things happening. And we were told that a lot of people could not afford a second night. They could not stay that Friday night or that Saturday night. And so they ended up checking out and packing up all of their stuff and leaving. That didn't affect us at all because we bought our rooms along with the block. So we paid for them. And we didn't know any of this until a little bit later on in the day. So we're reading all of this in the Discord and we're like, oh no. We were also told by multiple people that the Gaylord was trying to get in contact with the con chairs and could not get in contact with them. And so we're reading these messages as they are strutting on the walkway up there, and we were like, oh no, oh no, oh no. So after the fashion show ends and we've read all these messages, we're starting to feel pretty bad. And people are putting into the Discord being like, hey, some things are clearly going wrong, but there are a lot of authors and marketplace vendors here for us, so let's go spend our money with them. And so my cousin and I go back into the marketplace, and my first picture I took there is at 2:48, so we probably got there at around 2:30. And my last picture in there is just past 5 o'clock. So we spent almost 3 hours in this vendor marketplace, and I do want to take a minute and show off all the things that I got in this time, because I will say that the author and vendor marketplace was the best part of this whole convention. Every single person we talked to there was beyond spectacular. They had wonderful books, wonderful items. Everyone was so nice. The marketplace was where it was at. So of course you always get handled bookmarks and business cards and just like flyers and artwork. So I was given quite a lot of those throughout the course of the weekend. From Foxglove Lane, I got these like eyelash things that go on for like fairy looks, and my cousin bought these 2 moth clips that she absolutely adored. And now for the rest, I'm gonna get horribly confused as to where I got them from, but I will put pictures up for the businesses where we got them from. But I got these 2 bows that just clip into your hair with swords, of course, so stoked for these. A Camp Half-Blood hand-dyed banner, 4 pouches of scraps, like little pouches that were made of scraps from one of the fashion designers. We talked to her and her husband for a long time. They were wonderful. And I got 3 beyond stunning prints from Savvy Jensen. Oh my goodness. Obviously this is Minas Tirith from The Lord of the Rings. This is Rivendell from The Lord of the Rings. And look at this art of Zuko and Iroh at the Leaves of the Vine Hill. Get on this. For books, I bought 13 books. I got this beautiful edition of Smoke and Scar by Gretchen Powell Fox. Look at how beautiful this book is. Hold on, this is the front, and like, oh my god, stunning. Of course signed, and with some artwork and stickers and a bookmark. Smoke and Mirrors by J.D. Laubach, signed with Till the End. I got 3 books from R.L. Perez. Crown of Slumber, of course signed. Crown of Briars, signed. And a novella, Crown of 12. Got a Vow of Shadows by L. Backenstow, signed to Sydney Don't Fear the Reaper. And look at this art. Children of the Pines and Children of the Moon by H.S. McInerney, with this beautiful bookmark, signed and stamped, and this gorgeous artwork. Your Path is Sorrow and Your Path is Sacrifice by Parker A. Garner, signed with these 2 art prints, and signed with these 2 art prints. And last 3 beautiful books by Riley Hunt. Cursed by a Siren's Kiss, signed, and with this stunning art. Kingdom of Blood and Spirit, signed, and Queen of Vengeance and Fate, signed, and with these like promo cards. And so after this time, Rachel wanted to go to a panel, and so I took all of my stuff back upstairs. I ended up sitting in my room reading for a little bit. Most of these things I got on Friday because I wanted to do all my shopping in one day because I had more panels to go to on Saturday, and I wanted to make sure I got what I got before it sold out, or before, at this point, before vendors just left. So now I'm back at the room, and Rachel has gone off to one of her panels, and she, about 30 minutes goes by, and she texts me and she goes, hey, our panelists never showed up. So I'm gonna join you on your panel that you had planned for. And so at 6 o'clock, I was planning on going to Romantasy, Balancing World Building and the Romance. And this was a panel I was beyond excited about for somebody who wants to write Romantasy and reads it quite a lot. And I was so excited for this. But unfortunately, nobody showed up to mine either. We sat there for about 15 minutes and nobody showed up so we were all just kind of sitting there being like, okay, what is going on? And so I'm checking the Discord. Turns out a lot of panelists are not showing up for a lot of panels because they all went home because their rooms were not comped, or, you know, just the general lack of management. And so nobody was showing up to these panels. And so we're all sitting here. And eventually this group of people walk in, and somebody that looks maybe in charge goes, hey, what panel are you here for? And we're like, romantasy. And and she goes, well, my whole group is in a cosplaying panel, and we were also assigned to your same room at the same time, but it was initially on the other side of the building. And so now we're all here now. And so then now there's double of us waiting for 2 panels in the same room, and none of our panelists show up. And so another few minutes goes by, and this sweet volunteer comes in and she goes, hey, so I'm not a panelist, but I heard your panelist hasn't come yet. I am part of the orchestra and I'm a cosplayer. So let's, like, if anybody in here has some cosplay experience, come on up to the front and we're gonna host our own panel about cosplay. My whole side of the room was not here for cosplay, and so a ton of them left. But my cousin and I looked at each other and we go, honestly, this is kind of hilarious. Let's see it out, because we had nothing else going on at that time. And so we end up sitting through this cosplay panel run by an orchestra member and 3 people that were just normal attendees talking about their cosplaying experience. And there were a lot of great tips out there, but I'm not a cosplayer. But it ended up being kind of a hilarious time. And one of the panelists, famous quote, yeah, you go from a first-time con attendee to a panelist in one weekend. You never know what's going to happen. And so it ended up being quite a hilarious time, but definitely not what I signed up for. And I was still very bitterly disappointed by this. But the panel was supposed to end at 7, and 7 o'clock was supposed to be the start time for the Joel Sunny concert. Now, you've obviously seen him across your social media. He's a very, very wonderful musician, and we bought tickets to go see Sunny Joel. And so at 7 o'clock, we left to go get in line for, like, to, you know, get into this, this concert. And I took a picture at 7:15 in which we are still in the hallway, all in these gigantic lines. There is no VIP line, everyone is all just together. And we were all standing outside still at 7:15. And there are quite a lot of us. And now I have a video of us walking into the ballroom at 7:20 to no chairs whatsoever, except for maybe 20 along the sidelines of this gigantic ballroom, absolutely gigantic ballroom. And so we end up sitting crisscross applesauce on the floor of this gigantic ballroom. And a lot of us are in cosplay. A lot of us are, like, I'm in a freaking corset. And so we're just sitting crisscross applesauce on the floor. I will say that this time waiting in line and sitting on the floor was really fun. Shouldn't have been, because we should have been in the concert this whole time, but it was very fun because we were doing a ton of trinket trading and we were making friends. And thankfully, the friends that we made in this line, we have now become very good friends with. So we were very thankful for this really dumb experience that shouldn't have happened, but we ended up making the absolute most out of it. This whole bag is filled with trinkets that I got from the weekend. I passed out every single one of my trinkets. I've never run out of trinkets before, but we were passing out trinkets left and right. If you saw us, my cousin is the one with these bookmarks. She gave me one of each, as well as her coffin and bookmarks, and I was passing out little baggies with dragon stickers and little charms and, like, list of my 6-star reads. So that was us. If you trinket traded with us, please let me know. It was wonderful to meet you. And so we're sitting there in the floor, and the people that we became friends with are sitting next to us, and we were like, if you're not in the Discord, you got to get into the Discord right now. Because at this point, we all realized that we were actively on board the Titanic after it had hit the iceberg and we were all going down with the ship. And so the Discord was half people giving updates about what they're hearing from staff, like saying, hey, our panelists never showed up to this. Hey, this panel is still on. Hey, this is what I've been told by a staff member. Here are the announcements. There were no official staff members in this Discord whatsoever. It was all attendees. And it was about maybe another half people just arguing about whether or not we should be positive about this experience or whether or not we should be angry. It was a very big discussion that went back and forth all weekend and continued to happen about whether or not we can be upset about not having things that were promised to us, or about whether we should just be super positive. But then there was a talk about there's such thing as toxic positivity, and there definitely was that in the group chat. So there were thousands of messages that I read, all of them throughout the weekend, and a lot of it was fighting about that. But also there were some collective inside jokes that were made. So while we were in this cosplay panel that we weren't supposed to be in, somebody put into the chat that their girlfriend had wings, and they're like that she was cosplaying with, and somebody took a chomp out of the wings. And it is still unclear to me whether or not this was a real first instance, but after that happened, the chomper became an inside joke between all of the attendees in the Discord. And so we are sitting there cracking up at some of these messages. We are getting our neighbors into the Discord so they can be up to date too. I will say one of the best things to come out of this convention was the collective, like, we're all going down with the ship together mentality of all the attendees there. I've never felt more comfortable going up to literally anyone at any time and being like, so this train wreck, right? Like, so I think it, in a really weird, twisted way, I think it made it easier to make friends, because it was easy, because there was something happening to all of us that we could all talk about our experiences for. So take that as one of the positive things that came out of this weekend. So anyway, we are going through these messages, we are talking to these people, and I have my next video at 7:50 for when Joel Sunny comes out. That means he was supposed to start at 7, he was supposed to end at 8, and the Friday masquerade was supposed to start at 8. So 7:50 he starts, and we're like, oh my god, is he going to play Luminary and then get off the stage? Like, did we all just pay $35 for this? Like, what is happening? And so he starts the concert at 7:50, and I will say, as a Saturday ball goer, he was worth sitting on the ground for 2 hours, because this concert was spectacular beyond anything else. He has like the softest, sweetest voice. He's such a sweetheart. Up on stage, I'm sure that he really like played into it, but he really did seem like such a sweetheart, and his concert was phenomenal. He had 3 band members with them, and they gave us goosebumps. He performed beautifully, absolutely beautifully, and it made me want to go to one of his other concerts to have like an untainted experience, because this concert was so well done. He had us, like, there's no words to any of his songs, but he had us like singing a tune in 2 of his songs. He had us close our eyes for one of them as he like walked us through the story of the feelings that he wrote this piece for. He did such a great job at getting all these people involved with his concert, and it was really, really well done.
Facing towards the celestial light that calls aloud, I see myself walking through an emerald gate with a great sigh. Okay, let's actually dim the lights a bit more, because I'm going to get you all to close your eyes. Wait, let's bring the lights back up. I want to check if you're closing your eyes.
at some point towards the end, my cousin is like, hey, have you looked behind you at any point? And so I turned back, and there are a ton, like dozens upon dozens of masquerade goers just standing in the back in their full masquerade outfits, because they had been let in towards the end of the concert because their ball had started and nothing was set up. And so some people were upset that we all paid for this concert and they ended up getting half of it, but they also missed out on their masquerade. I'm sure a lot of them were also upset that the concert happened anyway, because they probably bought tickets to the concert and then they bought their Friday night tickets, and then his concert was slated for the hour before the ball. Like, that was just poor planning across the board there. And I took a picture at 8:45. That is when the concert ended, and apparently it was just lights on, no music for quite a while in this poor ball that was supposed to start 45 minutes before. And then, according to the Discord, about 9 something, they kept the lights on, but they started playing music. And so everyone in the Saturday night ball was like, hey, Friday night goers, keep us updated with how your ball is, because we're all nervous. We initially wanted to go to Sunny Joel concert, go back, shower, kind of unpack, decompress a little bit, and then go out to the after party that was supposed to happen. But honestly, after everything that had happened that day, we were both so exhausted from the drama and the reading of the Discord and just like constantly changing our plans that we went to bed. Like, we were done. So now it's Saturday. A lot of people have jumped ship. We were told that quite a large portion of the volunteers left throughout the course of Friday because of everything that was going on. And so at this point, Saturday morning, we were pretty nervous about what we were going to get ourselves into, if our ball was even going to happen, if anything was going to happen at all. We were pretty nervous. I was supposed to have a 9 a.m. panel, but the odds of it happening were so low that I decided to sleep in and just go straight to my 10:30 panel, which I was also really looking forward to. It was called Procrastination Paradox, Writing in a Time Loop. Did not happen. Did not happen. And so instead, I just sat there catching up on the Discord, and we were told that, oh, they left, there was another piece to our VIP swag bag that we have to go and pick up again. So I was like, oh my goodness, okay, fine. And so we end up going to pick it up, and it is this die, like a gigantic die. It's really beautiful. I am surprised that something this nice was put into that thing. And apparently they ran out eventually, and people, because I know this because this person posted on social media saying it's not our fault that they ran out. Please stop giving our business bad reviews. So that is really unfortunate for this business. I am so sorry for you, that you did not deserve that at all. And I really wish that you had just not donated those to our VIP swag bags. Like, it was not worth it for you. I'm so sorry. So anyway, we decided to go into the vendor marketplace early. And so this is where we did a lot more of our shopping. We talked to more of our vendors, and we're in there for quite a while. And after that, we went and got some lunch, and then I was just so exhausted. We just went back to the room and just took little naps, because it was just, we were overstimulated, we were frustrated, we were talking to a lot more people than we normally do. Like, it was a lot, so we needed some time to decompress. And then we decided to go and walk around and take some pictures. I was in my Camp Half-Blood t-shirt with my beaded necklace, and we were walking around outside. We came back inside, and we ran into Corwin of Mindful Media, and we ended up talking to some of the cosplayers that we had met the day before. So we were just, all talking, and as he was taking photos, it was really nice to, do some more trinket trading and talk to these really lovely people. And we were hearing more about their experiences, about how Corwin actually got a hotel room and put up a ton of people, and then Corwin is like, hey, you're in cosplay, you're coming with me. And so this really lovely man took some photos of me in my cosplay. He let me hold his sword. I've never held a sword like that before, so that was really, really fun. I'm really looking forward to eventually seeing those photos, but he's a really lovely photographer. And Corwin, if you are watching this, you are so good at what you do, man. You are so you have the eye for everything. You know what you're doing. You talk to your models so well. This is coming from a professional photographer of 10 years as well. My guy, you are so good, but you need to update your gear. Please, for the love of everything, update your gear. You deserve it. You need it. Everything is so perfect. I know so many photographers with amazing gear, but they just don't have what you have. And my guy, you need better gear. But anyway, so we took these photos, and then we realized, oh my goodness, it's time for my 4 overlapping panels. And so I, talked to my cousin, and her other one, according to the Discord, was canceled. And so she decides to come with me. And of the 4, we decided to go to Cozy Fantasy Beyond the Cooking and Coffee. And we were shocked to show up and have 4 panelists that were supposed to be there. So we had 4 lovely authors that gave us a really wonderful panel. We learned quite a lot about cozy fantasy, about cozy writing. It was a really nice panel. It did start, I think, on time, maybe a couple minutes late, and it did go a little bit over, but that's totally fine because the only other thing we had after that was our masquerade. And so I ended up going back to the room and doing a bit of reading and relaxing. Rachel went to another panel that may or may not have happened. I don't really remember. I'm pretty sure it did happen because she ended up coming back late to the room, and initially she was pretty stressed about going to this panel because she wanted enough time to get ready for the masquerade, but from everything that we had heard for Friday, she was no longer stressed about showing up to this masquerade late. And so we end up getting ready, and we don't finish getting ready until 8:55 is when we were in the elevators to go downstairs, when the ball was supposed to start at 8. Now, normally for a ball that I go to, and I've been to a couple now at this point, we want to be there from opening to closing. Like, we want to be there entirety. But we were an hour late going downstairs, and we are seeing through the glass elevators that there are so many people taking photos. And we were like, oh no, if everybody's out here, then that means nobody's in the ball. Like, what is going on? And so we end up going around and taking photos. I was getting kind of frustrated because it was pretty dark, and as a photographer, I wanted better light. But you know what? That's what we get for being so late. It's whatever. We got some really beautiful photos, and then we ended up going into the ballroom, and they played one song, and then we had like a 20-minute ballroom dancing lesson, in which we, like, you know, did this dance and then did it to the music. It took quite a while, and it was like a couples dance, and it was just my cousin and I, and she was being intentionally uncomfortable. Like, look at me in my eyes and all this stuff. Rachel, you little shit. But anyway, we're like, okay, fun. What about all the people that like aren't here with couples? But whatever. It was an interesting experience. And then after that, they played non-stop instrumental Bridgerton-esque music. And we're like, how are we supposed to get down to this? Like, how are we supposed to get down to this? Like, you can't. We lasted about 20 minutes. We tried so hard, and we were like, we literally cannot. It is so awkward. It feels like prom, but so much worse, but literally so much worse. The lights were still on. You could see absolutely everyone. One of the best things about this convention was seeing everyone's dressed up. Everyone for the masquerade and really all weekend looked so good. Everyone looked so good. So yeah, we lasted like 20 minutes, and then we ended up leaving, and then we walked around, and we ran into our friends. We talked to them for a while, and then we were like, yeah, let's just go upstairs for a little while and wait until the after party, because the after party has actual DJs with actual music. Let's just go then so we can dance. And so we end up going back down for the after party. My first photo downstairs is 11:45 because the after party I think was supposed to start at 11, but we did not trust that. So we went down at 11:45, and it was loud. Oh my god, it was loud. It was so loud, but it was good music. They played Golden from K-pop Demon Hunters. They played some good songs, but it was so loud that we lasted again like maybe 20-25 minutes, and then we were like, let's go to bed. So we ended up packing a little bit that night. We go to bed, we wake up, we finish packing, and then Rachel wanted to go to the 9 a.m. bookbinding masterclass, and she was up very, very late, so she got very little sleep that night. And she's very thankful that she went because it did happen. It was a panel that did happen, and so she learned quite a lot. I was initially going to go with her, but I wanted more sleep, so I slept in and finished packing and ended up going to Swing and a Miss, writing believable fight scenes at 10 a.m. And let me tell you, I am so happy I went to this. This is a group of historical fencers and fantasy book lovers who would love to read better fight sequences in fantasy novels. In this panel, we will demo fighting styles and weapons from Europe, Persia, and Ottoman Empire, covering a few hundred years of history. The weapons range from daggers through to great swords, both in and out of armor. So they're all part of the Maryland Kunststiftungs. I don't know how to say that. The largest historical European martial arts club on the East Coast. All competitive fencers and instructors. They were wonderful. They were absolutely wonderful. They started late because they were waiting on chairs for all of us, and so we were all just standing around, and they let us pick up their weapons, and they were answering questions, and then they went through. I thought this was going to be an hour, but it was an hour and a half, and they went through and did fight scenes with all the armor. They were talking about common misconceptions. They were talking about how when we see them in movies and in books, this is how they're normally portrayed, but it's all wrong. They're like, we're gonna ruin books and movies movies for you forever. And I wrote down so many notes. It was spectacular. I really, really enjoyed that panel. And so after that, I ended up running back to the room, grabbing our stuff, checking out, putting all my stuff into our car to get to the Frostfire Symphony on time. This was starting at 12 in that same big ballroom, and this was a large final event, and it was supposed to be from 12 to 1:30. Of course, they didn't start until about 12:10. of course. And they started out of the gate with How to Train Your Dragon. And we were told, and we also kind of knew, that these people had never played together before. Some of them had never seen the music before. And so this weekend they practiced once together on Friday, and then they rehearsed for about an hour and a half before the concert on Sunday. So you could kind of tell they'd never played together before, but they put so much heart and passion into their pieces, and they clearly loved them a lot, that it was still a very fun experience. But like, you start out on the gate with How to Train Your Dragon songs, which are notoriously difficult pieces. It was a little difficult to get through. The rest of it was pretty good. Whoever was doing, I don't know, the circle horn, I don't know what it's called, did a really spectacular job. Both the vocalists did a really wonderful job. One of them even, I think, was like chair violinist. I don't know music, so I think that's what it's called. Spectacular job. We had a guitarist with who was cosplaying as Hunt, so he had these gigantic wings behind him as he was on the guitar, or the bass. I don't know instruments, but it was a very enjoyable experience. But it ended at 12:49. And so the whole thing was about 30 minutes long when we were told it was going to be 90 minutes. And I don't blame them at all, especially if this is their first time together ever. But it was just, again, not as advertised. And so then the conductor turns around, and I hadn't seen their face because I was running and grabbing us water in the beginning. But when they turn around, I realize that it's, again, one of the chairs who is conducting this orchestra. And I'm like, okay, what are you doing here? Like, what is happening here? And so then we were told at the end of the concert that the closing ceremonies are going to start soon. And my cousin turned to me and she goes, all right, do you want to stick around for this? And I was like, yeah, I'm seeing this to the bitter end. Like, we are going to stick it out. We are going down with the ship. And so we decided to stay there. If the concert ended at 12:49, I take a picture at 1:53 of when the beginning of the closing ceremony starts. So we're sitting there for an hour, and I'm of course checking back up on the Discord. And this is where I learn a few more things. I was not taking part of the war rooms that were happening, but it was supposed to be like scavenger hunts and, you know, team things. I don't even know. But none of that happened as planned. All the staff left. That did not go well at all. They were promised like items to the winners and never got them. There was a lot of things happening with that. There was a smutty panel that happened one of the nights, and one of the con chairs was up at the top drinking straight from an open container, like a handle right on stage in front of everybody. I witnessed both the con chairs dancing on top of the stage during the after party on Saturday. We were like, what are you doing up there? Everyone's trying to get a hold of you. We saw them way more than we ever should have. And meanwhile, everyone was trying to get a hold of them. So instead they were, you know, at all these events, leading all these events. So it was very questionable look. And you could tell because when the closing ceremony starts, finally, one of the con chairs is up on the stage, and immediately two women that were sitting in the front row jump up and they stand at the bottom of the stage, and they turn to face us, and they're leaning against the stage like this, and they have their arms crossed and they're staring at us like this. And so my cousin and I look at each other and we go, what is happening? Are they part of this? And after a few minutes goes by, we realize that we're like, I think they're trying to be bodyguards for the con chair to like the 100 people that are here at the end. Like, what is happening? And so then we go through this entire closing ceremony in which they are talking, all excited about all the things that happened over the weekend. They are building up the anticipation for next year's event, and they show off this video for next year's event that somehow is Labor Day weekend at this incredibly exclusive event space, still at the Gaylord, and it's this entirely new theme with even more happening to it. Like there's a bay care for your husbands. You get assigned to a team, and like everything you do throughout the weekend, including in the Discord, will get you points towards your team. And so they're hyping up this even bigger and better convention. And all of us sitting in the back are like, huh? Can you get one convention right before you add 10 more layers to it? What are you doing? And so this ceremony ends at 2:27, and right at the end, one of the ladies acting as a bodyguard takes the microphone and she starts with, "Words hurt." She goes on to kind of scold the crowd, saying that these con chairs have worked so hard to bring together such a wonderful weekend, and that they've been getting death threats all weekend, and that we should be kinder to them and everything they had done for us. And meanwhile, the con chairs are standing on the stage like, and we're like, my cousin and I are looking at each other being like, is this really happening right now? Like, are you serious? We have a right to be upset. Like, what are you joking right now? And so thus ends the closing ceremonies. That was it. That was the end of the closing ceremonies. She talked about how they were up there. They were just normal plebeian attendees, and they were up there, you know, to act as bodyguards for the con chairs because they were getting death threats all weekend, which is definitely extreme, but like, what? They also went off social media a long time ago with the Second Star Events thing, and because they were getting death threats then too, and then they went off the internet. So I don't know why people are so prone to giving them death threats, or if that's just, I don't know. So we get into our car and we drive away, and parking attendants are like, we think they're so done with our con, because they were like, get out. It was an experience. So like I said in the beginning, there were a lot of really good things that came out of this convention. My very first convention ever, again. We met a ton of friends. We made our own fun. The Discord was hilarious. I found some really wonderful authors to try out. I got some wonderful artwork and some trinkets to take home with me. But overall, I think a recurring statement that we kept saying in the Discord is that we were having fun in spite of the convention's logistics. Logistically, this convention was a nightmare. And as I said in the beginning, I am lucky that the only things that inconvenienced me was that none of the events happened as planned. I wasn't out a ton of money because I didn't have to pay for hotel rooms I wasn't expecting to. I didn't have to drive 12 hours to get there. I didn't have to load in a ton of stuff. So my inconveniences were just more, I was promised things and they were not delivered, or they were delivered to the crappiest way, like crappiest quality possible. I ended up having a fun weekend, but it was not what was promised. And so I know that there are a lot of people talking about a class action lawsuit. There are a lot of people talking about how, like, we need to take action against them. They were talking about how, oh, I even forgot to say there's a whole cafe thing that didn't happen, first of all, but then when it did happen, it was with like Costco quality supplies. I feel really bad for the people that paid to be in there too. They were talking about how all the money made from the cafe was going to donations, but they raised almost $1,000, but the math was not adding up to that. And so everything is just really, really fishy. And people are saying in the Discord that they basically scammed us all so they could have their main character weekend. Personally, that's the way that I'm leaning. I feel scammed, but not to the point where I'm going to jump on a lawsuit, because I did end up having a fun weekend. There's people that were way more harmed than I was in this situation. I will say I checked the Discord today, so Tuesday. It has been entirely erased. There are no messages in there. It is all gone. So I am very thankful that about 24 hours in, I started screenshotting everything so that I would have the evidence so that I could show it here, because I knew that it would be gone by Tuesday. I know people created another Discord so they could continue talking, but I was not going to join that. But overall, a complete mess of a weekend that we made the most out of, because that is just the people we are. The bookish community has an insane amount of drama in every way possible, but we love what we do, and we're gonna push through and make ourselves have a good time, and then we're gonna talk shit afterwards. My cousin and I agreed that we are never going to go to another one of these conventions, which sucks because they are so close to home for me. And although we made a lot of friends, it was not worth the stress of having things so overpromised and underdelivered to us. and totally not worth the price tag for the Gaylord. The Gaylord itself was a really beautiful, beautiful venue, and we are very happy that we stayed in it, but we will not be going back unless it is for a bigger, better convention that has reviews. We took a risk with going to a first time convention, but we were at the very first Neverland Ball and had a wonderful time with Second Star events. We've been the first to many events before. So yeah, it was a risk, but also we were conned. I mean, that's really the thing of it. But anyway, if you stuck around this long, then that means you were here for the tea. I hope you got it. I have even more to share that I just took screenshots of, and so a lot of this is directly from the Discord. I'm just going to give you a ton of screenshots that I saved of hilarious moments, but also people sharing their own stories. And I hope there are better conventions out there, because the idea for this convention was so wonderful. It was so wonderful and exactly what I wanted out of its community. So I'm going to keep searching. If you know of a convention for readers and writers and fantasy lovers, please let me know. I'd love to go to a better one. But for now, I am holding off on events. I'm not giving up on them, but I am holding off for a little while. But yeah, if you stayed this long, thank you so much. Stay here for a little bit for some more tea, but I will see you in the next video.